야, 그것도 뭐냐, 이 사람아. 너 인간이야, 이씨. 아니, 사랑하면 그냥 가버리면 어떡해, 이씨. If you want to be an honorary Korean, you have to know how to make the best chapagurri ever. Greetings, salutations, man. We just coming out with videos now, huh? Oh, I'm losing it. I'm losing it. Well, as you guys know by now, Parasite the film, directed by Bong Joon-ho, one of my favorite directors of all time, has now popularized one of my favorite ghetto at-home dishes. You know what's interesting about this dish is that this dish is something that I've been eating for a very, very long time, but a lot of people don't know about chapagurri. When they saw it on the film, people started freaking out about the dish, and I gotta tell you, when people are making this, though you're not making it wrong, you're not making it right. You could tell every person that's done a tutorial on this online has never really ate this dish before because you're kind of just doing it the way that you think it's supposed to be done or someone told you how you're supposed to do it. But you're all fucking wrong. You don't just eat chapagurri, man. It's a lifestyle. You got to live it. Hey, man, okay. Let me tell you bitches something. This right here, this right here is titty by chapagurri. You know what I'm saying? Queek, queek. Well, let's talk about what we're going to use for the chapagurri. Hold on one second. So essentially what chapagurri is, right? It's 2 instant pack ramens. Now this isn't like the regular ramen that you get. We're not talking about like top ramen. We're talking about Korean ramyeon. The guri comes from noguri. Guri, 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 rocking everywhere. I found you. Noguri is basically a spicy seafood ramen. And what it's trying to imitate is this dish called jampong. Jampong is basically a spicy noodle dish that's like a fusion of like Chinese Korean food. Then we have chapagurri, which is the chapa part of the guri. That's one of my favorite things I've ever put in my mouth, minus penis. Okay, I'm seriously losing my fucking mind. But chapagurri is an instant noodle dish as well, based off this dish called jjajangmyeon, which is a Korean Chinese fusion dish once again, that's based off the Chinese version of, I think, jjajangmyeon or something like that. Now these two are the traditional instant noodles that you'll use for chapagurri, but I'm gonna flip it up a little bit. Bam, bitches! I don't want you guys to use noguri in this dish. Yeah, it's called chapagurri and you need noguri. The only thing is when you use noguri, you actually don't get a lot of that spicy seafood noodle flavor because the chapagurri sauce is actually very, very overpowering. Overpowering in a good way, because that shit delicious. Specifically in this pack, there is a special ingredient. They have a spicy oil that actually coats the noodles and you can taste the spice and the heat through the chapagurri sauce. And you only need a couple of more ingredients to really make this dish pop, so how about I just shut the fuck up and just start cooking, huh? Well, of course, first things first, my friends, we are going to fill a medium pot filled with water. Not too much water because we're actually not going to use all of it. Then you're going to take that water and we're going to get that water boiling hot. Now, when you open up these packs of ramen, you're going to notice that the jampong ramyeon and the chapagurri ramyeon are actually different noodles, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. They're going to be different, and that's totally fine. Now, in those 2 packages, you're going to notice that there's going to be 2 seasoning packs, 2 dried vegetable packs, and 2 oil packs. Now, when the water comes to a boil, take the jampong ramyeon seasoning pack and only use about half of it. We actually don't need all of it for this recipe. After you're done with that, throw in both dried vegetables from both packets into the water. Now, while that's still hot and boiling away, I want you to get a small skillet or a small pan, melt some butter, and what we're going to do is to start sauteing some onions. Now, these onions are going to be delicious in this dish. You could have it diced as small as you want, but I like it relatively small because I kind of want it to melt away. Some people like to keep it bigger to add a little texture, which is perfectly fine. Also, what I like to do with the other half of the seasoning, I actually like to use it as salt to season the onions instead of throwing it away. So while that's going, throw in your couple of packs of ramen into the broth and start cooking away. While I was cooking it, I realized that I didn't put enough water in, which is perfectly fine. It's actually better to have less water than not enough, so I decided to add like another half cup or so of water. Then when I'm done with the noodles to the doneness that I like, I'm going to take the noodles, put it into a strainer, and then save the broth. Then we're going to dump the noodles back into the pot, and then this is where we're going to create the magic, my friends. Now, before we add the seasoning packs, we're going to take those slightly caramelized onions and put it into the noodles first. Now we're going to add all of the chapagurri powder into it. You don't need to save any of the seasoning for this one because we're going to need it for the sauce. Then we're going to dump all the oils. First, we'll put the chapagurri one. Then we're going to put that delicious spicy chili oil in. And the noguri ramen doesn't actually have this, so this is going to be the huge hitter in this dish. Now, the reason why we save the broth is because the noodles are going to be really, really dry, and we're actually going to need that flavored seafood broth to thicken it up with all the starch in that liquid. So you're going to add as you go, and depending on how watery or how thick you want your sauce, you're just going to keep adding and adding and stirring and stirring and stirring until you get something that looks relatively like this. Now, up until this point, everything is preference. If you like it saucier, you like it a little drier. If you want to add a little bit of the extra seasoning to make it a little spicier, then be my guest. And how salty it is going to depend on how much of that water that you had in the beginning when you created the broth. But when you're done, the dish should look something like this. And my friends, you are going to be the happiest person alive. Trust me.
Now my favorite part about doing this. Time to eat, baby. Ooh! Your chapagurri, when you have this, should taste like the chicharroni, but it should have that heat and that kick and that charred spicy oil flavor that you get from that jampong packet. That's the biggest difference that you're going to get compared to the noguri. That spiced oil, oh, right here though, you're gonna taste it. Obviously in the Parasite film, you see pieces of steak in there, and that's what makes it Ramdon, where you add the steak pieces. But we on quarantine, bitch, and I gotta save that meat for some other time. You feel me? Ooh, you got those buttery little pieces of onions in there. And by the way, be gratuitous with your onions because the chicharroni flavor and the spice jampong packet has a lot of flavor in there. So you want to taste those onions. Oh God. Remember, if you want it a little spicier too, use the rest of that pack. I saved about a third of the spice mix so I can make sure I get that heat through. Ooh, this right here. Oh, and by the way, make sure that you eat this with some kimchi, baby. I actually was introduced to this by my buddy Edric. He's the guy that I do Secret Society with. He told me about chapagurri, and I kind of fell in love with it ever since. This is high in calorie, by the way, so this is probably gonna be my only meal of the day, minus some protein that I'm gonna eat later. But oh my God. I know a lot of you out there, if you haven't had like Korean ramyun, Korean ramen is something else. It's not just your typical regular packet ramen. You really can add your own flair to this and make this like a really decent meal. Like, I'm not even playing like, yo, somebody charge me for this so I don't have to do all this work, I'll buy it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You guys try this at home and you can get your hands on these packets of ramen. Let me know what you think of. Remember, just because I make it this way, it doesn't mean that you can't make it a different way. Okay, one more bite. Well guys, we'll see you next time. Happy quarantine, and I don't know.